I want to go now to our friend over at KAIT, Chase Gage. How you doing, man? You're in Batesville, Arkansas, right?
A little cold, but other than that, I'm doing pretty well this morning.
Okay, tell me what you can see where you are. It looks like some sort of sleet, perhaps a little bit of snow there. Give us an update on the conditions.
All right, so I'm going to hop behind the camera here. Apologies if I slip trying to get back here. Everything is frozen over here if you can't tell. Yesterday we had some sleet at first, and then it switched over to freezing rain overnight. Now, here's kind of a look at some of the roads here. This is Highway 167 in Batesville behind me here. Let me get that focused. There we go. And traffic is moving pretty smoothly. Of course, as soon as I get here, there's hardly any cars coming, but there's a truck right here. You can kind of see traffic is flowing pretty well. The roads are slick and wet, and there are a few icy spots, but they are cleared off for the most part. And that's because I've been in contact with RDOT all morning, and they've been telling me that they've got snow plows out. They're working 24 hours right now. Just everyone is around the clock working, and they were actually out last night, and they were able to do more work than they had anticipated on these roads, which made them much better this morning. Yesterday when I came into town, it's typically about an hour and a half drive. It took me over 3.5 hours to get here. At one point I was going 15 miles an hour in a 75 mile per hour zone and still struggling, but they were able to plow. That was actually this highway 167 yesterday, and but they were able to plow those and get those in much better condition. It's still slick out here. We did have reports of an accident about 30 to 45 minutes east of here around Newport, to where a semi-truck hits a sand truck, and it shut down traffic on that stretch of highway on Highway 67. Other than that, I haven't really heard much on any other accidents. It's just cold, and everything from parking lots to grass to cars is frozen over right now. This morning there has been some precipitation on and off. Sorry, it's a little cold, hard to enunciate there. This morning it was falling as rain and freezing on all the surfaces. It was about 25 degrees. That precipitation has since moved out, but we kind of expect it to pick up on and off throughout the day.
Wow. Okay, so Gage, I'm looking right now at iDrive Arkansas map here, and it's showing ice patches everywhere, including the area of Batesville where you are. And just to confirm here, you mentioned, Chase, that you in a drive that normally takes you 90 minutes, it took you 3.5 hours. Again, talk about some of the issues that you're seeing there in Batesville, because when I pull up our camera here in Memphis, we see icicles on it here in Midtown, but the roads look fine. And then I pull up your camera and it looks like snow, maybe ice, maybe sleet. Again, what kind of precipitation are you seeing there on the ground?
So it started out as a very heavy sleet yesterday afternoon. Really, here it hit a little earlier, even as early as maybe 11 a.m. to noon, and it fell as sleet for several hours, and that really piled up on the roads. Now, they did treat them with brine and salt, things like that, so some of the roads were a little more ready for that precipitation, especially like these main roads that are behind me here. But when I was driving on the highway, that's where things were really, really bad. It was basically to where you had just a rut for each tire, and you had to go about as slow as you could, but it was primarily sleet. Then overnight it fell as freezing rain, and that has glossed everything over. Now, when I spoke to RDOT earlier, they did say that even though the roads are clear, there's not sleet on top of the roads. There are ice patches, especially when you're on those overpasses, when you're on bridges, and this is a pretty hilly area. In fact, the way I came in, I went down a huge hill, but if you're going back towards south side, that's heading south towards Bald Knob, you go up a huge winding hill. Places like that are slicker than normal, but yeah, even though there is stuff on the roads, they're not as bad as they were yesterday when I came into town. That was yesterday afternoon. I left Jonesboro around noon, and I got here around 3:45 because had to, like I said, I was driving about 15 for a good little stretch, probably 5-10 miles. That's about as fast as I could go. Other patches you can get up to around 35 or 40, but I couldn't advise going any faster than that. You got to look out for the black ice. I'll hop back behind here again. This morning when I was out here around 7 a.m., you could kind of see some of the icy patches on the road, and I'll see if I can kind of zoom in on some of those for you down here. Like you can see right there, if that's clear enough, you can see that like there's some sleet kind of in the middle of the road there, but the main lanes are mostly clear in terms of precipitation sitting on top of them. Now they're slushy and they're wet, and like I said, there is always that threat of black ice, but they are in much better condition than they were this time yesterday, thanks to some around-the-clock work from the Arkansas Department of Transportation.
I was going to say, I bet they have their hands full in terms of treating that area. I want to pull up this shot. I don't know if you could see it, but this is of Mountain View, Arkansas, just west of where you are. And I'm looking at, I believe it's State Route 5. And this area, Chase, is, boy, I would not want to be on that road. There's nobody on the road. It looks extremely slick and slippery. It looks like there's just a sheet of ice on both lanes here of State Route 5 there in Mountain View, Arkansas, just west of where you are. The treatment of the roadways where you are, has that helped? Has that diminished some of the slick and slippery conditions? Because it still looks kind of slick where you are.
Absolutely, that helped a whole lot. That was really the plan that RDOT had coming into this storm. They treated the roads pretty heavily yesterday, and they tried to do as much as they could in front of this storm, though it moved through a little quicker than we even really anticipated. In fact, I was heading here from Jonesboro around noon and didn't expect to really hit this heavy sleet type weather, and I ran smack into it. It was moving west to east, and I was going east to west, so I went head first into it. And but yeah, you could really tell where they hit the roads hardest with that treatment, because between that and the traffic moving through town, the roads went from pretty much completely covered to where you could barely see any asphalt at all, except maybe a tire track here or there. But then once you get into Southside and Batesville, which are kind of sister towns here, right up next to each other, once I hit Southside heading into Batesville, it opened up like just a normal road where it just had some slick patches and stuff. So that treatment has gone a long way, and they still are out today. They're working around the clock right now. I was on the phone with Alex Roof from RDOT. I talked to him last night around 7 p.m. and I was back in contact with him today around 4:30 this morning. So, he's just working, him and his crews are working around the clock to continue to treat these roads and to make sure that they are as passable as they can be. Like you said, they are very slick compared to normal conditions, but compared to what we've seen over the last 24 hours, they are better now. But we do anticipate that they could get a little worse, as we're not thinking that we're going to even get up to freezing today. So it's going to stay below freezing temperature-wise, so this stuff isn't going to have much of a chance to melt other than some of the cars driving on it. And we do have more precipitation that's trying to move in. In fact, since we've been talking, it's starting to sprinkle just a little bit, and those sprinkles are going to freeze on every surface. I cleaned off my car, got all the ice off of it this morning, and just a little bit of drizzle moved in, and it froze my car completely over again. Parking lots are in really bad shape. Back roads are in pretty bad shape, but for the most part, some of these main roads are again passable, but that doesn't mean you can be out here driving the speed limit even. You have to be very, very cautious and make sure that you have extra supplies with you, water. Make sure your phones are charged, because yesterday when I was driving in, I saw several cars in ditches. There were some hills that cars couldn't get up and they would get stuck. So don't be out in it if you can avoid it. Don't get stranded. Stay warm, stay inside, stay up to date with all these updates that we've got coming through today.
Chase Gage, you're doing yeoman's work, man. This, for our viewers, this is truly a one-man band, because not only are you reporting, but you're also behind the camera shooting all this video. You're driving out to the scene. You're running your own live shots. You're freezing out there, and you're giving us very relevant updates in terms of the weather and the traffic and everything out there. Really appreciate your help. Go ahead and warm up. Thanks again, Chase, and be safe, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I'm going to head in and get some coffee and try to thaw out a little bit. But thank you guys for having me.
Please do. Please do. Nice job. All right. So let's